Noy,
Oh, that's true.
and we have Steve online.
Debbie said she was going to try to get on. So.
Oh, okay. And somebody that has Chubb's iPhone, and I don't know who that is. Uh-huh, sure.
Maybe say, okay, you filled out, but I'm worried, like, yeah, I check some box.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'd be happy to look it over for you. Yeah.
So then I can email it to them today.
Okay.
Because she gave me yesterday, and they say that the form is old, so that's why.
Oh.
To ask them for new one.
Oh, okay.
I called them, they say, no, the form is old, and we don't use that one.
Okay. Okay, everybody, we're going to be talking about working with buyers today and how to be your best with buyers. I'm going to do a little role playing and just talking about buyers. So your information packages, Steve, I don't know if you got yours by email before you logged on to the class.
I think I got sent something,
Okay.
but didn't open it up. I'm also doing floor time at home.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I could get.
That's double duty.
Yeah, I could get deluged with phone calls at any.
Good. We'll hope it happens. That's okay. You've heard this before, so.
Okay, I'll listen.
Okay. Okay. So, ladies, we're going to go through what's in your book, but we may flip around the pages a bit, so don't be surprised if we do. Okay. First thing you want to do when you're working with a buyer, what do you think? What do you want to find out?
Pre-approval, make sure they're pre-approved.
Yes.
Know that their money is, how much they want to pay.
Yes, that's important, but that's not where you want to start with them. Because you might scare them away a little bit. Okay, so first thing you want to do is find out if they're really buyers, huh? You know, I had a company over on the coast for years and sold real estate, and it's so much different selling real estate over there than it is here, because people go to Pismo Beach and Arroyo Grande and Avila Beach, and usually they would go in couples, and the men would go out and go deep sea fishing, and the ladies were looking to be entertained. Okay, so you learn very quickly that, because we got a lot of walk-ins over there, and you learn very quickly to ask them if you found them the right house today, were they prepared to buy it, and why were they out looking, so on and so forth. And a lot of times they were very honest, and they would say, you know, my husband's out fishing and I didn't have anything to do. So you were their free adult babysitter for the next 3 or 4 hours or half a day or whatever, provide lunch for them and take them out, and they got to look at home decor and all that kind of stuff. And maybe you see them again in the future and maybe not. So you learn very quickly to ask some good questions. So it's good to ask these questions of anybody. First thing you want to do is to ask them how long they've been looking, because what's that going to tell you?
If they're serious.
If they're serious, if they are shoppers rather than buyers, if they're looking for a way to get into homes to see decor, and, well, if I find the right thing, I'll buy it, and that kind of thing. Those people generally aren't really serious. And not that you want to drop them like a hot potato, but you want to maybe cultivate them. They're not going to be your number one priority. They can be somebody that you keep in touch with, but you don't want to spend all of your time with somebody that's not going to buy. Okay, so just ask them, How long have you been looking? And how soon do you need to be in your new house? That's going to give you some idea too. If it's August and they say they want to be in before school starts, you've got a real job ahead of you. Or if they say, we're flexible, it doesn't matter, when the right thing comes along, we'll know and we'll buy it then. They may not be as serious as somebody else either, but they might be very serious if they do find the right thing. Okay. Find out why they're moving. Usually, most moves have an underlying emotion. And they may say something like, we're moving to LA because of a job transfer. But why, what drove them taking that job transfer? A lot of times, I've got a daughter down there and 2 grandchildren, and we don't get to see them very often. We're missing their growing up years. They took that job transfer, the underlying emotion were family. Okay, so if you find out what the underlying emotion is, that helps you work with those people in a better way for both buyers and sellers. What's the underlying emotion? And I'll give you a real good example of that. A number of years ago, we had an agent that came to us and was here for a while, and he had grown up in this area, and he was a gymnastics teacher. He moved to Texas and worked with gymnasts down there, and was down there for a number of years. Then he and his wife decided they were going to move back to Fresno. They knew the neighborhood, the builder, the kind of house they wanted. They knew everything about what they wanted. And when they got here and bought, it was nothing like what they came prepared to purchase, what they thought they were going to buy. It was a different builder. He said they had never lived in a 2-story, and it was a 2-story. It wasn't the neighborhood. What do you think made them buy something that was totally different than what they said they were shopping for? Grandkids. They moved back here because they started having all of these grandkids, and they wanted to be near those grandkids. And there was a house just around the corner that came up for sale. And even though it wasn't anything like what they wanted, his wife said, we came here to be close to those kids. We're going to be close to them. So they were just around the corner. So knowing that underlying emotion sometimes helps you to understand that people might buy something different than what they think that they want if their underlying emotion is met. Okay. So find out about those things. Always ask, how did you hear about me? Or if you're on floor time or something, how did you hear about Century 21? If a lot of your business, and it will be within a couple of years, most of your business is going to be past clients or referral driven business, and that's your whole goal. That's the best kind of business to get. So ask them, how did you hear about me? That's going to go a long ways in understanding, for one thing, how you can work with them. If somebody is referred to you, you've already had the icebreaker, so to speak. They're aware of you. They trust you because if they were referred to you by a friend or a past client, there's a built-in level of trust there, and you don't have to prove yourself nearly as much. You have to be very careful that you don't let them down or disappoint them. But a referral is always better business because of that element of trust that comes with them. Okay, so another thing that I think it's important to ask is, have you bought and sold property before? what was your experience like the last time that you purchased property, or the last time that you were involved in a sale of a property, maybe as a seller or a buyer? Because that's going to tell you how you need to handle them. And it can work both ways. If they had a good experience and they tell you about that, that sets the level of expectation for you, right? If they say it was a horrible experience, I never want to go through that again, ask them about it. You never ever want to point fingers at another agent or be accusatory or anything like that with another agent. But listen to what they say, because they're going to tell you exactly what they're expecting from you. And generally, what's the biggest complaint do you think that people have?
Not contacting.
Right, right. I thought that agent was going to keep in touch with me. I thought they were going to contact me and let me know what was going on. I never heard from them. Or we had to find our own house to buy. That agent was never out looking for us. If we saw something, we'd give her a call and say, can we see that? But that pretty much lets you know what you need to do, or whatever it might be. And whatever it is, we lost faith in that agent because she talked too much about this or that, or it was all about her and not about us. Let me tell you a little bit about how real estate has evolved through the years. Many years ago, before the 70s, real estate companies were more or less mom and pop companies. They might have 2 or 3 or 5 people. A large office had 10 people, but you didn't have big companies. And it was all about the company. The agents there were just agents. It was all about the company. And a company by the name of Remax came along in the 70s. Remax made it all about the agent. And the agents could put their photo on their sign and their name and so on and so forth. It became very much about the agent. And then suddenly every agent in the United States wanted to be like a Remax agent and have it be all about them. So then it was about how long you've been in the business, how many houses you've sold. I've done this, I've done that. This is wonderful. You should work with me because I'm so great. And people took that for a long time, and it was very competitive in the industry between agents that were trying to outdo each other. Okay. And then we evolved finally out of that to the point where now people don't care about us, how long we've been in the business, what our accolades are, what kind of credentials we have, until they know how much you're going to do for them and how serious you are about taking care of them. That's what's important to people now. All of that other stuff is totally secondary if it ever becomes important at all. So I think for new people, especially coming into the business now, that's an advantage for you, because you don't have to try to outdo somebody that's been around for the last 30 years getting stale, right? You can be yourself. All you have to do is dedicate yourself to that client, and they will be grateful and receptive and responsive. Okay. So then you want to find out, once you've established some of those facts, what they're looking for. Paint me a picture of what your dream home is, and let them dream. May not be what they're going to end up buying, but it gives you a good idea about what they're really looking for, what's really important to them. and ask some questions along the way. You want to make sure that your questions are open-ended so that they have to respond to you with a sentence or two and not a yes or a no. Okay. Ask them about their hobbies, their lifestyle, number of children, pets, hobbies that maybe require some extra room, like room for an RV or to park a boat. Maybe they're into photography. Maybe they're into cooking. Maybe they're into barbecuing. Maybe the outside of the house, the living area outside is as important as the inside. So find out about those things, and that will help you too, figuring out what to show them. Buying a house really is a matter of elimination more than selection. Sometimes you get people that they don't care how long the process is, as long as they see everything on the market. Remember the days when we used to go in dress shops? There were really two kinds of shoppers. There was a shopper that wanted to go into every store in town, look, touch, feel, and try on every dress, and then probably go back to the first store and buy the first dress for whatever reason. The other kind of shopper is the one that doesn't really like to shop. It's a painful experience. Just let me get in there, get it. Now they shop online, right? But they weren't into that experience. They really didn't care. Just let me get through this as quickly as possible, buy what I need, and I'll be gone. People shopping for houses are kind of like that. Probably going to take a little more time, but there are people that like to see everything. Is it to your advantage to show them everything? Probably not. It depends. You certainly want them to see enough to be able to get an idea, to make themselves happy. If they're moving to this area from another area or another state and they aren't familiar, they're probably going to want to see more than somebody that's familiar and knows exactly not only the zip code, but the neighborhood where they want to be. That makes it pretty easy. All you have to do is find a house. So I would say in your process, and you mentioned asking about finances and where they are with that. You need to have a discussion with them about finances. They need to have some idea of how much they can afford, what their down payment is. Do they have to sell something before they can make a purchase? That's a very important question. One of the first things you should know, do you have to sell something? If they do have to sell something, is it local? Is it listed? Can you list it for them? Would be better for them and you both if you could, but that doesn't always work out. But in asking that question, it will help you get started with where they are with that process. They need, if they aren't working with a lender, first and foremost, try to get them into C. Watson Financial. Kathy does such a wonderful job, and she takes a personal interest in her people and does her best to serve their needs. She's very efficient. She's got most of the loan products that are available around town, and a lot of times the rates that she can offer are either very competitive with what's out there and could even be better. I'll tell you, one of the secrets of using our in-house lender is that I don't know if you're aware of how much power John Kerry Sr. has in this town, but he has a tremendous amount. And if we get into a situation in a loan where it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes you have to ask for a favor or try to get somebody to take a direction on something, John can accomplish things that nobody else can. And where a loan might fall apart with another lender, John can get it to happen. So if for no other reason, give them a try and let Kathy go to work for you. I think you'll be very well pleased. Okay. That's our commercial for the day, but it really is true. She does a great job, and Glenda, the loan processor, is wonderful, extremely talented in what she does, and being able to process those loans. And then the power that John has is just amazing. Okay. So if you're going to start eliminating properties, first place probably to start is with the price range. I think one of the interesting things about this area is that we have areas and neighborhoods that are going to vary a little bit in price because of location. And it might be a very similar property, even by the same builder, but one side of town compared to another, and it's not a good neighborhood versus a bad neighborhood. It's just that it may be closer to this school or that facility or something like that. So I think you learn very quickly here in this area who the builders are, because everybody seems to know the builders, even the models of the homes that that builder builds. People tend to know. And I find that very interesting. I've never been around that before. So get to learn those things as you go and pay attention, because you're going to find that in conversations around here. Okay, so eliminating by price or determining an area by price. It is helpful to know where they work. Do they need to be close to work? There are a lot of professions and positions that people have that require them to be a certain distance or a certain time drive from their job, depending on what it is. So they may need to be close to an area for that reason. Or maybe they want to have their kids in a certain school district or go to a specific school. If that's the case, have them find out on their own about the availability of getting their child into that school, because that always isn't going to happen. And sometimes people buy a house and then find out there's no way their child can go to that school because all of their classrooms are full mid-year or something like that. So you want to help people as much as you can, but it's not your job to interview the school system and see if their kids can get in. They need to do that. Okay.
Because they'll blame you when you forget.
Yes. That's true. That is true. Okay. I'm thinking about that process of elimination. If they like a certain style of house or a certain builder, certainly that's going to be easy to find in this area. If they like a certain vintage of home, maybe they like that mid-century modern. Maybe they like the kind of houses that are in the Tower District, or maybe they like the kind of houses that are around Woodward Lake. There are a lot of different areas, and people tend to gravitate by the style of house or that neighborhood in this area a lot. Okay, any questions about anything so far? Okay, all right. In pre-qualifying somebody, I think the good news is you don't have to sit down and do a lot of pre-qualifying with people. You want to get them to their lender, but I think we have to know enough about loans and what they're doing, because that's going to directly relate to the kind of property and the kind of house. As an example, VA and FHA loans tend to be much more picky about certain things on a house that conventional may not be as picky about. VA and FHA want to have good, solid, strong foundations, a good roof. They don't want any unpainted lumber. They don't want, they used to be really picky about obsolescence in a floor plan. I don't hear that much anymore. They may still be. And an example of that, if you think about some of the old bungalows from maybe the turn of the last century, where you went in the living room, into the dining room, and then maybe you went into a bedroom, and to get to the next bedroom, you went through that bedroom, and maybe 3 bedrooms back, for that 3rd bedroom, you'd gone through 2. That's an obsolete floor plan. There's obsolescence there, and those houses shouldn't appraise for as much as a house that you don't have to go through a bedroom to get to a bedroom. Okay, that kind of thing. Used to be VA houses had to have a cupboard between the refrigerator and the stove. You couldn't have a stove and a refrigerator right next to each other. You had to have at least a foot of counter space there. Most houses are built that way now. If it's a very old house, I don't know if they still call that on an appraisal, but they may. So all of those things, as you begin your practice and working with different kinds of loans and appraisers, you're going to find out what people are looking for, what the appraisers and the lenders are looking for. Okay. In that pre-qualification process also, most people are going to have an idea of what they can afford. Sometimes they may be pleasantly surprised that they really can afford more than they think they can, because they've been used to making a certain payment for a long time, and maybe through the years or some time period their income has elevated and they can afford more. Most people have a tendency to max out what they can afford on their qualifying level, but not everybody. Some people like to make sure that their house payment is going to be very comfortable, that they're not married to that house payment, and that's what a lot of people do. They spend more than probably they're comfortable. They may be able to qualify for that amount, but then they're strapped to that payment, and it limits the other things that they can do. That very quickly takes the joy out of a new house when all you can do is make the payment and can't afford to go to a movie or something. So,
That's very true.
yeah,
Even though you can afford it, but you don't want just to make a payment, right?
Yes.
You want to be able to go on vacation.
yeah. More to life than a house payment, huh?
I love travel, so
Yeah. Okay. It's good to know. Um, it's good to know things about loans, and we're going to go into that. I gave you that booklet the other day. We're not going to go into that right now. We'll probably do that on Thursday. Spend some time there talking about kinds of loans. I'll see if Kathy can come over and talk to us a little bit too about loans and what people need to bring into that process, what she needs in order to get started to not only pre-qualify, but get somebody pre-approved. There's a difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Do you know what it is?
I'm not sure. I think it's pre-qualify is that you send in some paperwork to them, or but then it pre-approved means like you approve, right?
Yes, yes.
Loan amount.
Usually a lender can give somebody a pre-qualification over the telephone in just a few minutes, because they're going to talk about their income to debt ratio and pretty much give them an idea of the amount of house they can afford at the interest rate and what the payment would be. Okay.
You did that letter on pre-approval, right?
Yeah, it's the pre-approval that you need to make an offer on a house. That's not a requirement. It's become tradition when we went through the REO mess a few years ago. The REO companies wouldn't look at an offer without a pre-approval. It saved a lot of time and a lot of people backing out. Bless you. So now it's just standard practice that to submit an offer, it's best to have a pre-approval letter. The difference is that on a pre-approval, the lender has verified their income, they verified employment, they probably have verified money in the bank,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And they're pretty much ready to go. All they need is an accepted purchase agreement and then an appraisal following that. And they're pretty much set to go forward at that point. That saves a lot of time and so on and so forth. So if you know that somebody is looking for a VA loan, VA is one of the few now that you can get 100% loan. Their interest rate and terms, it used to be that they were a little better, but they aren't anymore.
You can or you cannot. 100% loan.
You can, through VA. Yeah. The only other one that I'm aware of, and we'll ask Kathy for sure, are USDA loans. I believe you can get 100% loan. And a USDA loan, we do a fair amount of those in this area, but they have to be in an area where the population is much smaller. So right here in downtown Fresno or in Fresno city limits, you probably can't get a USDA loan, but you go out around, probably up in your area.
Yeah, we're out in the ranchos.
Yeah.
Is it?
145 and 41, it's out in the Vera.
Yeah. So in a sparsely populated area, that's where USDA,
Jensen area.
yeah, yeah,
Sanger.
Sanger,
Yeah.
some of the areas, Minkler. Yeah. Okay. So it's good to know those things because a lot of times your buyers won't. And as you're doing your interview with them, you might point them in a direction that they didn't know existed. And sometimes for young first-time buyers, that can be very important to get as much financing as they can at that point in time.
The
Okay.
VA needs a letter too or something.
Yes, they need a letter. I can't remember what it's called, but they want to see your discharge papers and know that you were an active service person that was honorably discharged and so on and so forth.
Okay. You have to be active or
No.
Oh, no.
no, right?
Yeah, just that you served at some point.
But it doesn't matter how long you serve.
No, well, yes, it's not going to be very long. I'm going to say it's a time period like 30 or 60 days. But I don't know. It isn't a long time. You don't have to be in for years. They've got a formula, but it,
You get that loan, right?
mhm.
So I don't understand. It's the VA loan. You say you can only qualify in some areas. That's what you're saying.
If you're a
No.
veteran.
I'm sorry?
If you're a veteran, you can't
Yes.
get that VA loan if you're not a veteran.
Right, you had to have served
Served.
in the US military. Yeah.
But I mean, if you active, you can do it too, right?
Yes, active or inactive, As long as you served at some point. It used to be you couldn't have two VA loans at one time. So if you had a VA loan on a house and you were going to buy a new house and you wanted to have that VA loan, you had to sell this house and the people had to get their own financing. You couldn't assume that VA loan.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
But now you can get even another one after you've had it. Which is
Yes.
nice.
Yes.
You can have two.
Yeah.
Well, not
Once they're
at the
paid
same
off,
time.
Not at
Yeah.
the same time, but if you bought a VA home,
Uh-huh.
paid it off, and now you want to buy
Oh,
another home.
because they come back to you because you already paid off.
Yeah.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so in talking to your people, it's good to know the kind of loan that they're getting, because you're going to know as you go through the MLS whether that house may or may not qualify, because most agents on a listing will put uh, no VA FHA offers because they know they're not going to appraise. Their appraisers are looking for some of those things we talked about before. And if a house needs a lot of repairs or has damage to a foundation or something,
So it won't pass. Huh?
yeah, it won't pass. And that helps you as an agent with a buyer know not to waste your time showing that house. Um, it helps too if your buyer comes to you and says, I saw a house on Elm Street that sounds just right. And you look at it in the MLS and see it's not going to go with HA or VA, and they're interested in that kind of a loan. You can tell them, and that's part of your process of elimination. You don't want to show every house to somebody that they're not going to buy or they can't afford. That's why you want to get them qualified as early as possible, because sure as the world, they're going to fall in love with something they can't afford, and then nothing's going to compare if they have to come down in price to that thing that they've already established a desire for. So, do you ever show property before somebody's got a pre-approval letter? Absolutely, because you don't want to lose them. You want to help them through the process. And if you're on the floor or you get a call from somebody and they say, I saw a house on Elm Street, can you show it to me? We're really anxious to see it. Your job is to go show. I wouldn't even ask them if they're pre-qualified at that point in time. Go meet them, establish some rapport, establish some trust. Part of your conversation that you're going to work into is, have you met with your lender yet? Do you have a lender? I've got a great one if you don't. Find out where they are in that process.
Or if you need to list them, maybe they don't have a realtor,
Yes, that can be
right? You
Yeah.
want to get them to sign
a listing agreement.
the agreement, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. If you're working with a new client, I think it's really important to have an interview process before you go out and show property to people, if at all possible, because it's going to do two things. It's going to show that you are a professional and you take this seriously. And it shows that you're interested in them. Always have something to write on, always take notes, because first of all, you're going to refer back to those notes, but it really engenders a feeling of trust from somebody. If they're if you're writing down something that they've told you or said, people just feel,
So
yeah,
let's say
yeah.
if somebody call you, say, oh, I want to see that house. Would you be like, okay, if you available, would you go that way, or would you say you meet first?
I would say, well, I'm going to say it depends. Um, we'll use floor as an example. If you have floor time and you get a call, your goal always on the floor is to get an appointment and go show, or get an appointment to list, or get an appointment to do whatever, whether it's immediate or in the future. If somebody's just calling up and say, we saw that house, we'd like to make an appointment and see it, it gives you a little more time that you can work into a more professional situation. But if somebody calls up and says, we're sitting out in front of 123 Elm Street, is there any chance you can come and show it to us? Yes. Go show. Unless it's way out in the country and it's 5 o'clock and it's dark and you're alone, that kind of thing. You always want to factor in the safety the safety thing about showings. But yes, go show, and because your goal is to get there with them, to build rapport, and to create a relationship so that they will work with you. Okay. So you meet them at that house and show it to them. And that's when you ask them about how that house feels. What are they looking for? Have they been to a lender yet? Do they have a pre-approval letter? And if they don't, that's the time to talk to them about how important that is. And I think it's good to ask if they're working with another agent. A lot of times people are going to say yes because they're afraid you're going to push them into doing something with them and maybe they aren't ready. But there's ways to work around that and conversations to have with people. If they're really working with somebody else, I think it's always good to try to get them back to the agent that they are working with. The golden rule is right at the top of our code of ethics about do unto others. And you certainly want people to send your clients back to you. But a lot of times people will say they're working with somebody when they really aren't, only because they feel like they're going to be pressured.
But how would we handle it if they say, yeah, I'm working with the other agent, but they're not really working with the other agent?
Okay. And that brings up something else. Just because somebody is working with somebody else doesn't mean that they've got a contract with them or they're theirs forever. An agent can't claim somebody just because they had a conversation with them, or even if they've shown them a number of houses. Buyers can decide, it's just not meshing with us. I don't feel comfortable with that person. I don't think they're interested in me. They're too high pressure. They're this, they're that. People have personality differences, and that's okay. A buyer needs to work with whomever they want to, they feel is going to do the best job for them. If they're in a situation with an agent and they're happy with that agent, you want to get them back. But if they say to you, yes, I'm working with somebody, but I really don't feel comfortable, I think it's time for me to change, whatever door they open that lets you, gives you an opportunity, take it. There's nothing wrong with that because people need to work with who they feel comfortable with. Okay. There are agents around town that will have something listed, and if somebody says, I'm working with another agent, they will say to them, and we've actually been to professional standards on this with some of our agents, they will say to them, if you work through me, I can do this or I can do that. You know, they've always got this little line where they will do something like pay for the appraisal, or I can get you a better deal, I'm the listing agent, that kind of thing. That's not a good agent. That's not a responsible agent. And we don't like to do business that way, because you can do business the right way and have plenty of business because people will respond. They know that you're genuine that way. So if you have that conversation and they say, we do have an agent, but I'm looking to change, I don't feel comfortable, we haven't heard from that person for a month, and they open that door, then you've got the opportunity. And I would say take it. Because they did. If somebody's really happy with the agent, they're going to say, we've got a great agent. By the way, here's your card. And when you're working with a buyer, give them some of your cards and say, I know people are out and about, and if you see an open house or something, I always want to go with you. But if you just can't resist, then here's my card, and present it to the agent. Let them know that I'm your agent, and you're going to get a hold of me after you've been to that open house. And they If they're a good agent, they won't try to pressure them into working with them. They will honor that card and that relationship. Okay. If it's new construction, a lot of the builders around will work with agents, but they want you to be with those people. If those people wander through a model home and register, then you're out of luck. You've got to be with them there at that first point of contact with a builder or the model homes and register those people along with yourself. And usually those builders are really good about paying a commission and being good about it. But if your buyer goes in first, then you're just out of luck. So I think one of the best reasons for getting somebody to come in and sit down and talk with you first before you go out and look at property is so that you can interview them about what they're looking for, what their needs are, where they want to be, that kind of thing. But you can also tell them how you like to work and what it's like to be an agent. One of the papers we have in here talks about, in fact, let me find it and we'll talk about it. It's called, it's right before the sequence of events, which has a yellow and green strip to it, but it's this page. And it's the meaning of an independent contractor. I think, and then understanding commissions. I think this is an important discussion to have with your buyers because most people have not a clue what it means to be an independent contractor. Let them know, as an independent contractor, I'm not salaried. I don't get a paycheck until escrow closes. So my working with you is extremely important to me. I don't think we ever have to be embarrassed, ashamed, or afraid to say, I'm here to make a living for myself and my family. This is how I earn my living. And so here's the deal. I want to give you everything that you need to purchase the home that you really want. My job is to provide a buffet of information for you, as much information as I can put out there for you so that you can make a good decision. My job isn't to make decisions for you or tell you what to do or pressure you into anything. My job is to make sure you've got the information that you need. That's my job. I'm going to be very loyal to you. I'm going to give you all the time you need. I'm going to get as much information, and if there's something we need to explore or find out, we will. I'm not going to leave you hanging or dangling or anything like that. I'm there for you, for your benefit, and explain to them what a fiduciary duty is. I'm there as if I were standing in your shoes to take good care of you. That's how important this is to me, for you. The only thing I ask in return is that you'll be loyal to me, so that we can create a great relationship. I want you to trust me. I want to trust you. I want us to work well together. At the end of this whole process, I want us to shake hands and be friends forever. And I want to feel like I've done a good enough job that you'll refer your family and friends to me, because that's how I make my living, is by referrals, because I'm going to try to do the very best job that I can do. And if you feel like I'm not doing something, please let me know, because different people have expectations that are different from others. I need to know what's important to you. And I think we'll work quite well together. So it's important to say those things to people, to let them know what an independent contractor is. And I think it's good if you have a little booklet for buyers. And some of the things that I've got in here, you can put right into a booklet for buyers. I'll make one up. If you like what I've got, you can use it, you can add to it. When I was a working broker over on the coast, I had a binder and I had things like this. I had copies of all of the properties that we saw. Um, in those days, people still used binders. They were 3-ring binders, and it was easy to put things in for them. Then they had copies of their contracts. At the end, I had things for decor and colors and that kind of thing, so that as they bought that house, then they had a resource there for the things. So if it's a binder that somebody can keep, if you like that idea, run with it and develop your own. I've got a lot of things you can put in it if you need things like that. Uh, at the very least, I would give them something like this so that they will know how you work and what it means to be an independent contractor. And understanding commissions. When you tell somebody there is no salary to my job, I work strictly by commission, which means until escrow closes, I don't have a paycheck. I don't get money for gas from my company. They don't pay anything for me until it closes. So that's one of the things that makes me do a better job, because I like to get paid at the end, and I'm going to do the best that I can. Let them know what it means to be an independent contractor, and let them know, because everybody thinks that there's a commission and that the agents are getting all of that because everybody drives a nice car, everybody dresses well and talks about doing this and doing that. And it's perceived that real estate agents have an extremely nice lifestyle, and a lot of people do. But it isn't what our buyers and sellers think. They need to know that there's one commission for every house that sells. That commission is divided in half right off the bat. The listing agent, the listing company gets half of it, and the company representing the buyer gets half of it. From that half that each side gets, then the brokerage keeps part of it, the agent representing the buyer or the seller. So every commission is cut into 4 parts, and we all get a share of that. And if there's no closing, there's no part to that. And we work very hard to work toward that closing. We want to make sure you get the right property, the property that is the home of your dreams or meets your needs or whatever. But I think if you let them know as a part of your interview process, the only thing I ask of you is your loyalty, and give me a chance, and let's work together. Let them know how committed you are. Any questions about that? Okay. I think the other thing in that interview process is to talk to them about the sequence of events and let them know, because most people really don't have a clue. Most people will buy and sell maybe 3 or 4 houses in an entire lifetime, if that many. And so it's going to be a long time between one purchase and a sale and the next. Things change, they forget, they maybe weren't that involved in the process anyway, so they forget the sequence of events. For a buyer, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out and look for homes and find something that you feel like you would like to make an offer on. And if they haven't been to the lender, let them know that's a part of this sequence of events, is getting that approval letter from their lender. And then we're going to preview selected homes. We're going to talk about the price range that you want to shop in, the neighborhood, the things that you need, the number of bedrooms, the square footage. If you need this, that, or something else, we're going to make a list of the things that are important to you in a home. And then we're going to go out and shop and find what hopefully will work for you. And then when we find that house, we're going to make an offer. When we write up an offer, and by the way, I'm going to give you a sample contract because there's a lot of paperwork in this. I want you, as part of your homework, before we make an offer, to look at that contract, become familiar, because you're probably not going to want me to sit and read every line of 14 pages to you. That's all legally stuck. What I would like to do, have you preview it, come with any questions that you have, and then I will paraphrase as we go through, as we prepare an offer, the things that I feel are most important to you, and we'll talk about those things. But I want you to feel comfortable at any time to ask me any question, so on and so forth. We're going to make an offer. When we make an offer, we need to attach to it your pre-approval letter with your lender, because most listing agents and most sellers expect that today. And the reason they do, and let them know why. And because we've got in today's market more buyers than we have houses on the market, there's probably going to be competition when you find the house that you want to make an offer on, because we have more buyers than there are houses on the market. So every time a house comes on the market, a new listing, there's usually going to be a big group of people looking at it. It won't be everybody's cup of tea, but there's always going to be 2 or 3 people that are vying for the same property, bidding against each other. So that's one reason I want you to be familiar with this purchase agreement. We want to structure it the best that we can, because we want to make your offer the most attractive to the seller. That doesn't always mean we have to have the highest purchase price. We just have to have the best terms with the highest purchase price that you feel that property warrants. And it's going to be your decision about how much you pay. I'm going to give you information to help you make that decision, but ultimately you're the one that decides how much you're going to pay for a house. Okay. So when the seller gets your offer, he's going to have 3 choices with that. He can accept that offer the way that it's written, and we're going to do our best to make an offer that is strong and appealing to a seller. If there's something that that seller can't agree to, then he's got the chance to counter it. If he doesn't accept it, he can counter it, or he can just flat reject it. It's never in a seller's best interest to reject an offer, because that closes the door. At least in a counter offer, the door is open for people to negotiate back and forth. The best negotiations are where both parties feel like they're a winner. The art of negotiating isn't to make one party feel like they've been trampled and abused, and all of a sudden they have a sour taste about this property. That's not the goal. We want both parties, buyer and seller, to feel good. And that negotiation can take them to get rid of feeling good. So those are the 3 choices that a seller has. If he gets, let's say, 4 offers at the same time, and they're all at the asking price, sometimes today they're even more than the asking price, because that's competitive real estate today. He's going to look at a number of things. He's going to look at the kind of loan it is, because that may determine some of the things he'll have to do to the house. He's going to look at how much earnest money a buyer's putting down, because that shows their desire, their eagerness, their intent. He's going to look at the other terms. How soon will the closing be? How much time does that seller have to prepare and pack and get ready to move? All of these things are going to be factored in, and they're different for every seller and every buyer. So seller's going to look at those things. He's going to look at the other terms. He's going to look at the things that you may ask for. And it's okay to ask for things. Don't want you to feel that you should never ask for something. But he's going to look at, because what are most sellers looking for? The best bottom line, right? So he's going to look at that, but there's a lot of psychology that goes into real estate. And part of the best psychology is when somebody loves a house and they've been in it for a long time, and all of their memories are there, everything good that's happened to them is there, everything bad that's happened is there, life has gone on and now they have to sell. They want somebody to move into that house and be as happy as they were. This is really true. And if an agent will have a buyer write a letter to that seller and say, we love your house. We've got 3 small children. We're looking at a place where they can grow up and have memories. This looks like a good memory house. They can appeal to the emotions of that seller. Sellers will take less money and go with the family a lot of times. We've seen it happen so many times. And I see those letters in the file. And it's interesting to see how they're tugging at the heartstrings of that seller to go along with them. But you can tell that they mean it too. So those kind of things, that's part of the psychology of real estate. We have a lot of psychology in this business. So the seller's going to look at the whole package. Very few sellers are going to look just at the price. Okay, after the offer is accepted, we have a time period that we've got to get all of our stuff done in. So we're going to do a home inspection. And I would always counsel, before you go out looking at properties, to that buyer, it's always in your best interest to do a home inspection and find out exactly what there is that we can't see. Or maybe there's things that we can see and we don't know how to judge whether they're good or bad. We don't want you to buy a house and then find out that there's $25,000 worth of pest work that nobody knows about. You want to find out these things before you make that decision. It may cost you money ahead of time, a little bit, because the buyer pays for the home inspection, and they're usually around $250 to $300, depending on the size of the house. I would rather that you would invest that money in something that you walk away from than to invest $400,000 in something that you're tied to for a long time and have to put more money into it. So look at this as an investment. It's a security blanket. It's there to protect you. And that's probably the biggest expense other than the appraisal fee that your lender is going to charge, that you would have getting into a property, the home inspection and the appraisal. And so during our due diligence time period, we're going to get a home inspection. When we look at the house, before you make an offer, we'll look at some other things. We'll kind of glance at the roof and take a look. I'm not a roofing expert. I can't make any judgments about that roof and whether it's good or bad or whatever. But you might want to have a roof inspection. You may want to ask the seller to do a roof inspection. On the purchase agreement, it talks about different kinds of inspections and who's going to pay for them, but it doesn't talk about any corrective or remedial work that needs to be done. All of that's going to be determined after those reports are done, where the buyer can look at it, the seller can look at it, and they can negotiate any repairs at that point in time.
You have a 15-day window unless you write something different.
Yeah, 17 days.
17 days.
Uh-huh. Unless there's something else negotiated, and you've got 21 days for your loan. So during that due diligence time period, we're going to get your loan. We're going to take it through the process that the lender needs. They're going to send it to underwriting, talk to them about what underwriting is, and the loan officer gets everything ready to go to underwriting. And that's where they get out the magnifying glass and look at everything very closely about that property and about the buyer to make sure that if that buyer defaults, first of all, they're trying to find a buyer that's not going to default. And that's why they look at their credit history and all that kind of stuff. They're also looking for a property that's going to stand up to the length of the loan for the next 30 years. They want that property to still be standing at the end of 30 years when it gets paid for. So they're looking at both sides of that, buyer and property, to make sure that it's a good thing for the lender. And that's why the magnifying glass comes out in underwriting. And underwriting may make some conditions on making that loan. And maybe those weren't even thought about by the buyer or the seller, or they didn't show up necessarily in an inspection. But the underwriter will say, well, we'll make a loan on this, but before we do, this has to be done to that property. Or this buyer has to clear this off of their personal finance record before we'll make the loan. So that when the two go together, the house and the buyer, that lender feels assured that buyer's not going to default and house will still be standing. And then once underwriting says, okay, they're ready to draw loan docs. And when they are ready to draw loan docs, we're at the close of escrow. And once those loan docs are signed, the loan is funded, and then escrow closes. Okay. Okay. Can you think of any questions you might have at this point? Okay. All right. So let's do a little role play. I'll be the realtor this time. Who wants to be the buyer?
Okay, I'll be the buyer.
Okay. I had a pen and I must have taken it back in my office. Oh, thank you. Okay. So it's always good to take notes when you're interviewing. And hi, Gabriella. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
Good. So you're thinking about buying a new house, huh?
Yes, I'm really excited about this.
Are you?
Yeah.
What's driving this interest in a new house?
You know what? I'm moving into the area. I want to be closer to my daughter.
Ah,
She's
okay.
engaged to get married, and so.
Oh, okay.
And my husband and my husband's retired, and he's downsizing.
You downsizing? Okay. What area does your daughter live in?
Southern California.
Oh,
Old pretend here.
okay.
Fresno area.
Okay. What part of Fresno? Do you want to be close to her? I guess is my first question.
Within maybe a 5 to 10 mile radius.
Okay. So 10 or 15 minutes away,
Yeah.
something like that. Okay. You know, in this area, you can get just about anywhere in 10 or 15 minutes, so that's not too bad. Does she live on the west side or the east side?
She's in the Clovis area on
okay.
Temperance and
Okay.
the Ashland area.
Uh-huh. Great. Okay. How do you feel about Clovis?
Yeah, it'd be fine.
Okay.
It's not too central. I don't want to live downtown Clovis.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, how soon?
Let's see. Well, we're trying to sell our house,
Okay.
and so we're thinking when that closes, we'd like to be real close to trying to close that and move right into the new house.
Oh, okay. So you have your house on the market now?
No, no, not yet.
Oh, okay. All right. So you need to put it on the market.
Yes.
Okay. Are you working with anybody right now?
No, we're not. I mean, we're not working with anyone.
Okay. Well, maybe we could talk about that too and do a package deal, and it would make it really easy then to be able to list yours, do the marketing, have the escrow maybe at the same place, and all that kind of thing.
Well, that sounds really good.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So if yours isn't on the market now, you might be 60 to 90 days out from being able to move into a new home.
Okay.
Does that sound feasible?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tell me a little bit about your lifestyle and how you live in your house. What's important?
For my husband, he's a swimmer, so.
Oh,
something
need
with
a
maybe-
pool.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah.
A lot of outdoor living?
Not so much.
Okay.
You know, the heat of Fresno, no. But,
Okay.
but he likes to walk, so somewhere where there's hiking trails. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are all over Clovis. That would be an easy thing. And probably around the city here too. Okay. A pool and walking.
Maybe 2 to 3 bedrooms.
Is age a factor?
Of the house, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not really, but just so it's remodeled.
Okay. Want it to be fresh and current and
Yes.
okay, updated.
My husband's not a handyman.
Okay. Pets?
Maybe a dog or a cat.
Okay.
We have a cat right now, but
Okay. Okay. And need to be near medical facilities, shopping facilities, freeway.
freeway. Yes.
Depends on how close to your daughter, huh?
Mhm.
All right. And size-wise, square footage, does that matter?
No, not really. I mean, we don't want a big house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how many square feet you have now?
2,200.
Okay.
So something maybe 1,700.
Okay. A little smaller, but not a whole lot.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Garage space important?
For both cars, yes.
Okay.
We fight over that now.
Need a workshop?
No.
Okay. So 2 car, 3 car,
2 is
2
fine.
car. Okay. And let's see. Do you have a preference for a corner lot or an interior lot? Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you can think of?
Probably low maintenance on the outside.
Okay.
And a nice little patio in the back that's covered. And a walk-in pantry.
Okay.
What else?
Walking closet.
Gas stove would be good.
All
I
right.
think that's about it.
How about the laundry?
Oh, yeah.
Any indoor?
Yeah, indoor.
Okay. Good. Did you ever think of building your own? No, there will be plenty of things fitting your desires here. That will not be a problem. Okay. Do you have any idea of price range?
Probably what, 350,000 if we could keep it around there.
Okay. Do you have any idea what yours will go on the market for?
Probably about that too.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I have a question to ask you. So I hope I don't, I hate the word offensive because I never think this should be an offensive thing. But I just want you to know that if you and your husband should be over age 55, that there's a possibility if you're in the same county, you can take your old real estate tax rate with you. And that might be a real bonus for you.
Oh, that would be wonderful. We would probably want a VA loan. Because my
VA?
husband was a veteran.
Oh, very good. Okay. All right. Are you going to use the equity from your old house, move that into your new one? Okay. All right. I can tell you then, unless you just want to use that VA loan for the sake of using it, that your interest rate isn't going to be appreciably different, if at all. And if you're putting money down and don't need 100% loan, you might be just as well off getting a conventional loan, but we'll see at the time.
Okay. We own our home, so.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I think we're probably about ready to begin setting up some appointments. And what I would like to do is give you a little information about the way that I like to work and see how you like to work. Make sure we can work well together and go from there. So, has it been a long time since you bought or sold property?
Yes, we've been in this home 26 years.
Okay. I can tell you things are much different now than they were 26 years ago. First of all, 26 years ago, you probably had half a dozen pieces of paper or something like that when you bought your house. Now we're going to end up with about a ream of paper because we have a lot of disclosures. Our purchase agreement is 14 pages long, plus all of the addenda and disclosures that go along with that and the reports that we get. So we're going to have a lot of paperwork. I'm going to give you a copy of the purchase agreement so you can look it over ahead of time before we make an offer. See if there's anything in there that jumps out at you that you need some explanation on, that kind of thing. Because as we make the offer, as we prepare that offer, I'm probably going to paraphrase things to you so that we don't get into a long, lengthy explanation about every single paragraph that's in those 14 pages. It's very dry real estate talk. But I want you to understand everything, to make sure all of your questions are answered. My job is to provide as much information as you need or want to help you make a good decision. So that's what we're going to be doing. And I have some information here about what it's like to be an independent contractor. I'm going to let you take that home too. A little bit about our company. I would tell you, because most people don't understand that as an independent contractor, our only way of making a living is to close a sale and get a commission on it. We have no salaries, no reimbursement for anything. Nobody fills up the gas tank or that kind of thing. So my job is to do a good job for you so that at the end we're both happy with the closing. So I want you always to ask any questions, anything that you feel like you don't have enough information on or don't understand. Let's make it as clear for you as we can so that you feel really good about everything. If you remember back to your sale those 26 or 7 years ago, was that a pleasant experience for you or challenging?
We had the house built, so it's sort of challenging.
Oh, okay.
And had a well put in, and that was challenging.
It's always interesting to build.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I was going to compare experiences to see how I could serve you better, but with a contractor, that's always a different thing. So we'll just do our best. Okay. Any questions for me?
No.
All right. Good. What I'm going to do for you is prepare a list of homes to see. I'm going to start with one area of town that I think you might like. And we'll take a look at those and read out some of those. I don't like to show more than about 5 houses at a time. because I think it gets way too confusing for buyers because you forget by the time you get to the fourth or fifth one, you forget what that first one is like. I'm going to have an information sheet from our MLS for buyers that you'll get with each one. And we'll spend as much time there as you like. And if there's, as we make our tour, if there's anything you want to see a second time, we can certainly do that. Okay? Okay. So basically, that's about it. Well, you can do that, right?
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can do it. You can do this. You got it.
Yes. Yeah,
It's practice.
it is. It's just practice. And it's just knowing people and responding to people. I think the way that they like to be responded to. Some people, when I said there's a lot of psychology to real estate, there really is a lot of psychology to real estate because in every transaction, you've got the buyer's agent and the seller's agent, and you've got the sellers and the buyers. So you've got all kinds of personalities, and one of the classes that we have in Buffini is talking about the psychology and the types of personalities, the 7 or 8 types of personalities that there are, and how to learn to negotiate, their negotiation style, their personality style. And you learn these with people too, because there's a lot of people that are very chatty and happy and that kind of thing. And if you aren't happy and chatty back with them and spend that time, you've lost them. And it may take half hour, 45 minutes to get through all of that chatty stuff before you can get down to business. But if you don't do that, you've lost them. There's other people where if you take 5 minutes to be chatty, it's way too long. They just want to get straight to where they want to go and get it done. So we have to figure out those personality types. And I don't want to say play to them, but you've got to acknowledge them and work with them in the style that they like, or you're going to lose them. And sometimes it's hard to figure out. Sometimes you've got a couple and they're both, one's one thing and the other's the other, and so who do you thank you who do you lean toward? Who's the decision maker? How do you spend your time? Sometimes the person that you think is the decision maker isn't. So in essence, you have to keep both people in the loop and make sure that they're talking. You don't want to get in the middle of a squabble. And if somebody wants your opinion, and sometimes you get couples out looking at property and it becomes a very heated thing because one wants one thing and somebody else wants another thing, and they get into this little tip and you're right in the middle and somebody says, well, what's your opinion? You don't have an opinion. You certainly aren't going to express it and get caught in the middle of something, because either way you go, you're going to alienate the other person. So your job is to let them sort those things out and figure them out themselves. I would say when you're showing property, if there's any way that you can preview those properties ahead of time, do, but that's not always possible. So you want to look at all the photos that you can in the MLS. You want to read that MLS sheet and be familiar, because people are going to ask you things like, does this have a swamp cooler or central air? Well, you've got to know the difference, and you've got to know, and it'll say on that sheet what it's got. Does this have a gas stove or an electric stove? And they'll have all kinds of questions for you, and they expect you to know everything about every property. So you're not always going to know that, but if you've got some idea, Or if they ask something that there's no way that you would have had that information or that knowledge, never be afraid to say, I don't know, because you can't know everything. But I will find out and I will get back to you by 6 o'clock tonight or by tomorrow morning or something. I won't let it drop until I find out and get an answer for you. I think the way that agents get themselves into trouble frequently is by thinking that they have to have an answer or an explanation for everything. And you don't, because we can't. We're not licensed contractors, we're not attorneys, we're not financial advisors, we're real estate people. And the knowledge that you need is the knowledge that you gained when you got your license, the things you studied for. So the things that we didn't study for, like being an electrician or something like that, we can't possibly know, and we shouldn't have an opinion on. And people are going to catch you off guard and say something to you like, did you see that hole in the ceiling? What do you think caused that? You never have an opinion about what caused something. I don't know. But that would be an ideal thing for your home inspector when he comes to trace for you and find out for you. And that's exactly where that kind of a question should go to. That's a good question for a roof inspector. Don't you think we should have one if you make an offer on this house? Or that's a good thing for your home inspector. That's right up what he's supposed to do. So on and so forth. Okay. Overcoming objections. I got a page in your information there about overcoming objections. Objections are an interesting thing. First of all, what do we think an objection usually is for? Panic, letting you know they don't like something or this isn't right. A lot of times an objection is something that somebody puts out there because they're trying to convince themselves the other way. The best way for you to handle an objection is to first acknowledge it. Okay, I see, I understand, I hear you. And then just be silent. Because if you're silent, they're going to come up with their own solution a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times they will.
They need to process it.
Yep. And if it's something that really is a serious thing and there's no way to overcome that objection, then maybe that's not the right house for them. But a lot of times people will have pieces of furniture and they will say to you, I've got my grandmother's dining room hutch, and wherever I live, I have to take this hutch. So I need a big dining room for it. So you find the perfect house. It's got everything these people want, except there's no place for that hutch. So that's the objection. And in having a discussion, you might say to them, did you ever think about putting that hutch over here in the family room, and instead of having dishes in it, put memorabilia or trophies? Think of another purpose for that thing that they have to move and use someplace. And a lot of times they just need an idea or permission. You know, that was my grandmother's hutch. It was always in the dining room. Well, it might look perfectly well someplace else. So if you offer an idea, but most of all, let them express their own solution to their objection. Unless it's something like, I like this house. I just don't think it's close enough to whatever. And um, give them an idea of where a closer thing may be, or the time isn't as bad as they think, or what time of day do you usually go to that location? And if it's not a high traffic time, your time during the middle of the day is only going to be 5 minutes from here. Could you live with that? That kind of thing. Okay. The other thing you want to do when you're showing are little closes all along the way. What would be a little close, do you think? Because you're working up to the big closing. The big closing is, would you like to make an offer on this? Shall we write up the offer? Is this the one? And you're hoping for a yes if it is the right one for them. So all along the way, you want to be asking little questions where you'll get a positive response from. Isn't this a nice patio? Don't you like the exposure on this south side here? Or in Fresno, probably the north side. The north side patio, isn't that lovely? Get them to respond positively, because if they can say yes to a number of things, it's much easier to say yes, this is the right house, than not. Buying signs. What do you think a good buying sign would be when somebody is looking at a house? Touching. People like to touch things that they're interested in. It's right back at the dress shop. When you go shopping for a new outfit, don't you like to touch everything? You like to feel the fabric and feel the texture and so on and so forth. People will run their hands over countertops. They'll even touch somebody else's furniture. A change in personality is a good buying sign. If somebody's been real chatty and they suddenly get quiet, they're probably processing and thinking. Or if they've been real quiet and suddenly get chatty, they're excited and they want to talk about it. Placing furniture, talking about where to put the TV, exactly. Where would we put the cat's litter box? All of those kinds of things are really good buying signs. Okay. We've got about half hour. Would you like to do some role play?
Do you have hour?
Uh-huh. Just enough time to do some role play.
I don't know. Up to you.
How do you feel, Gabriella?
Let's be the realtor.
Yeah, would you like to be the realtor and talk to your new client? Would you be the client?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon. My name's Gabriella, and it's so nice to meet you.
So, my name is Very nice to meet you. Yes,
What brought you into Century 21 today?
well, I was interested to buy a home, my first time, and I'm looking to buy like a bedroom, 3 baths.
Do you know what area? And do you want to buy it in Fresno or Clovis or the outlying area? Wonderful. Is it north Fresno, south, on the other side of 99? Okay. Do you have any kids?
No,
Okay. No children. Is what brought you to the Fresno area?
my husband was
Okay, where does he work? Do you want to live near where he works?
Yes.
Okay.
We work at London and Melbourne.
Okay. Wonderful. Would you like to be near shopping or within how many mile radius would you like to?
Yes, I would like to be in close to Asian market.
Oh, good.
Okay, wonderful. And is there a radius that you would like to be in to his work versus the market? Would it be okay for it to be like a 50-50 split where you're maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes from his work and 5 to 10 minutes from if you're in the middle, let's say, of the Asian market?
That is good.
Okay, wonderful. So with your home, what is your dream home?
Open floor plan, have a big countertop and big kitchen.
Ah, yeah. Did you want an island, a big island?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want gas or electric?
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. How about storage in the kitchen?
A lot of food
Okay.
and big pantry.
Okay. How about the backyard? Are you looking for anything with your backyard?
Yes, with the pool.
Okay. You want a large pool or a small pool?
A large pool.
Okay. Are you going to use this for entertaining?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want grass also back there, or small grass, or
Yes, grass.
lots?
Some grass and some green.
Okay. And also, are you going to be using that inside of the house for entertaining also?
Yes.
Okay.
Not all the time.
Okay, mostly outside. Okay. Alrighty. You need a shop for your husband? Storage shed?
Yes. Because me a lot of tea.
Okay. So a small storage shed or something? Or a small shop? Or a small area?
Is it like is it for the garage? The one we was having?
Oh, for the garage would be separate from the garage.
Oh, it is a shed that you
Yes.
put outside, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and that reminds me, how many car garage do you have?
3 car garage.
Okay. Is there any type of extracurricular activities that you love to have to do, like biking or canoeing or boating?
Biking.
Okay, biking. Okay. And so this is yeah, wonderful. How about your air conditioning or swamp cooler?
Is it me asked about that too?
Well, some people, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the swamp cooler is an evaporative cooler that uses a lot of, it's water that goes through filters. It can wreak havoc.
Because I want to understand too, like, did he ask about that?
I don't know.
Did he ask about that?
Most houses are going to have something. Yeah,
That's a
But
bit-
some do
that's
have
should-
swamp.
some do. Yeah, some have both.
Well, and that do you want hardwood floors?
should-
What kind of flooring do you want? I should say, sorry.
Tile or hardwood would be good.
Well, that sounds wonderful. This sounds wonderful. Did you need an ensuite to the master bedroom, or are you looking for an ensuite?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I think that sounds pretty good. Is there anything I've left out that you'd like to see in your dream home?
No, I think it's good.
And
Yeah.
so have you had a pre-approval? No, yeah, pre-approval. Have you done the paperwork for a pre-approval?
No, if you can recommend it.
Oh, yes, we have a fabulous um, pre-approval loan officer that we work with here. That is separate, but still with Century 21, really help you. You really do need that pre-approval letter because when you're making an offer on anything, you need to have that. So we just crunch you if there's a lot of other buyers and they don't have that, but you do. That house could be yours just because of that letter. So we'll get you set up for that. And so, do you know how much money you want to spend?
Like 450.
450, wonderful. You know, sort of, kind of, what kind of a down payment you'd like to put down? Have you thought about that yet?
20%.
Okay, 20%. Beautiful. Do you know what kind of a loan, or have you thought of that yet, or no?
What kind of loan?
Well, if it's a FHA, a commercial, you know, loan, or
Conventional.
conventional, sorry. Okay, I think we could set you right up. I think it would be wonderful to, since you come in, we could get a listing agreement taken care of. I want to do everything I can for you to find your dream home. I work really, really hard. I don't get salary. I don't get money upfront to help you find a home because I'm an independent contractor, and so that means that I only get paid is when the sale closes. So I will. The only thing I require of you is that for your loyalty to me, and I will work really, really hard to find your dream home exactly where you want it. And so let's go ahead and sit down and draw up this listing agreement, and then we'll get you back to Kathy so she can get you pre-approved. And then let's go out and show you some houses. And I'll look on our multi-listing. Part of being with Century 21 is that we belong to the multi-listing services. And we can just bring up all these homes and narrow it down for you. And we'll go out and look at 3 to 5 houses. Any more than that, we'll get you to, you forget what you've seen. And we'll just go out and really enjoy ourselves and look and see if we can't find you. Will your husband be coming with you to look for this home?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. We want to schedule a time where he could meet with us after work, maybe 6:30, 7.
Yeah. Yeah, after you.
Okay. Or can you do it at lunchtime? I don't know. No, that's an hour. You could do it then
Maybe
too.
like day off.
Okay, day off. Fabulous. Okay, wonderful. All right.
Excellent. Great job, both of you.
Thank you.
That was
Very
good.
good job. You're good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, man.
okay. I was going to ask Mr. a question and he left. But one of the things that our MLS offers that I think is really a good thing is a portal. A portal that you can set up for any buyer or seller actually too, but you can fine tune that to the needs of your buyers. So if they want to be in one specific zip code, or maybe they've got 2 or 3 zip codes, you can put in the zip codes, you can put in the square footage, number of bedrooms, style, that kind of thing. And every time a new listing comes on the market, meeting those specific parameters, that listing goes directly to your buyer and is branded with all of your information. So they think you sit there all day long and look for these new listings for them. And it's very, very helpful. And once you join the board, then they're going to have classes and things down there for the MLS, so on and so forth. So feel free to sign up for those. Well, it's not going to be until all of this pandemic stuff is over with.
Yeah, even now I have to call them and they say you better email it because they're not open.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's why
yeah.
after this when you help me with get it housing, I'm gonna call them and so email it to them.
Okay, so we can scan it here and send it from here if you want to.
Yeah, they will let you.
Okay, all right, very good. Working with buyers may go very quickly. It may sometimes go slowly, depending on the market and what there is for your buyers to buy, so on and so forth. So, uh-huh.
She seems like she's always busy.
She is always busy. Yeah, Joanne.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
She's very busy now. She's
Yeah.
like a top,
The taller one.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
she's the top agent.
She's been with this company for about 34, 35 years, and she does very well.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And she's very sweet.
She
She said
is.
she said I never know or anything like that. She said I'm scared. And she said I'm very shy, but
She is very shy.
but she sells many houses.
See, if it's right, and it's supposed to be, it will work out for you, you know?
Yeah.
I'm very shy too, but like oh my god.
Well, we all are, I think. You know what it
Yes.
is? It's stretching. This is not comfortable, I mean, at first,
Yeah.
but eventually will.
Yeah, it will become so very quickly.
I would like to become like natural, like, so you don't have to think about it. And then could
You will.
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
automatic or
Yeah.
say what you need to say automatic.
It doesn't take very long. Really
When
doesn't.
you have to think about it, it's hard. I mean, like,
Trust me, I just did it.
what do I
Yes,
say?
you did.
Do I
A great
say-
job.
What do I say?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it comes very quickly, and that's good reason to practice here, because you can practice either with a client or here, and it's much nicer to do it in a situation where you don't have so much at stake, because certainly nobody here is judgmental where a client might be.
We
Who
want
knows?
them to succeed. We want them
Yeah.
to succeed. They do it, we do it, and I do it. Same thing. We all
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah.
There's so many people in this city, you could never. Enough for everybody.
There's enough for everybody. There's a lot of property sold in this area. Might as well have your share. So, Noi, do you feel like you want to try? You want to go home and practice on your husband first?
I don't know. I can give it a try. I think.
Okay, excellent. We'll just let you lead the way.
Okay. So, do you need the?
I'll be the buyer.
The buyer. Hi, my name is Moy. What do I say?
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just like that.
Uh-huh.
What brings you to Princess Illinois?
I'm so excited. I just moved in the area and I'm relocating from Southern California up here and we're downsizing. And my husband's down there. He doesn't want anything to do with this. So I'm thinking maybe a condo. I want to look at condos besides single family homes.
Oh, okay. Do you have any idea like where is the condo? The area that you want to be?
Not really. I really don't know Fresno that well. Just maybe near shopping and places to go eat out.
Okay. We have some nice area for a lot of shopping areas here.
Good.
You know, like what kind of bedroom? How many bedrooms you want?
I'm thinking 3-bedroom because
Three bedroom.
yeah, I have a daughter, but she's older and she's gonna get married and they'll come up and visit. So I'll need a space for them. not too small of bedrooms either, because if she comes up, we'll want an office for my husband, and then
What about the bathroom?
2 bathrooms, yeah, two and a half.
Even
Good
too
idea.
bad. Okay. And what about the garage? The 2-car garage?
Yes, please. 2-car garage. I don't want to have to work with, if it's a condo, having to park on the street. Some of them don't let you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm thinking maybe, we might be getting a dog again, so maybe tile. I'm not sure about hardwood floor if a dog pees on it or something. I would ask, how is that? How's hardwood floor with an animal? But we're too young for that. We're too new. So I think tile would be good.
Yeah, that would be very good because it's easier to clean because
Okay. And probably a nice balcony or a little small back area space.
Mm-hmm.
Washer and dryer. I have to have the washer and dryer in the house or the home. I don't want to go anywhere. Go use the facilities.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's easier that way. Right?
Yeah.
Any kitchen, like how the kitchen, big kitchen?
We're not going to entertain, but I would like gas. No, you know what? It doesn't matter. Gas or electric is fine. I want tall ceilings, though. I really want that airspace. If I have to live in a condo, I want tall ceilings.
Yeah. Me too. I live for the it's still open.
Yeah.
Maybe low ceiling is still kind of outside.
Yes, that's exactly it. And sort of wider hallways too. I don't want to feel squished in. I'm not sure of the square footage, like I said. I don't think I want anything over 2,000 square feet. So anything under, but not too small. I don't want.
Like 18, 17 maybe?
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, I could go lower. Depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
The height range, you have any idea?
Probably around the 350 to 400,000. I would like a pool though, so my husband can swim. It's important to him. Oh, and then if it is a condo, low common area maintenance. I don't want to have to pay $700 a month.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think probably roughly about like 150, 200.
Yeah, that would be fabulous.
Well, is it any thing that you have to sell first in order to purchase?
No, we just sold our home, so we're looking to.
Did I miss that part in the beginning?
No, I didn't say that. I don't think.
Yeah. Okay, so well, let's get you
Pre-qualified. Approved, not qualified.
have you you have any lender yet that you're working with? Did you see anything?
We don't have any lender yet.
Well, we have in-house lender, and she's wonderful, and she will take good care of you. So I would let her know that you will come to see him.
Oh, fabulous. Can we do some of it online, I wonder?
Probably.
Yeah, okay. Because my husband's still down south, so that would be fabulous if we could both do it online.
Yeah. A lot of things now is online or e-signing. Okay, I okay.
You're doing
You're doing
great.
wonderful.
We can cut it right there if you want to.
Okay.
You're going to be just fine, Noi. You both did an excellent job.
I just get so nervous.
No, I'm not judging you. No one judges you. They don't know anything.
Yeah, they know less. So I think you did great, both of you. And it just takes time to work into this, and you'll feel your own way. You'll do it your own way. Everybody, and I think that's one of the nice things about being an independent contractor. You develop your own practice really the way that you want it to be. As long as you're following state and national laws and follow the code of ethics, you do it your way because everybody here does it their own way. No two people do it exactly the same way, and it works for everybody. So that's the good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, very good.
I get too nervous. I'm like,
Take notes, you know, you can have a checklist.
Yeah, and there's a checklist kind of in there for you. Go through those papers and see what in there will work for you that you would like to use. But one thing I want to say, we've got a number of divisions of our company. Our biggest part here is resale of residential homes. You know, they're new homes, and then anything after it's been a new home is a resale. But we've got an agricultural division. We have a number of people that specialize in ag properties. We've got commercial, um, and commercial's anything that there is other than residential. We've got investment properties. We've got land, fine home and estates, which is, we have to qualify to be to be able to use the logo and say that we're a fine home and estates company, and we do qualify. So working with upper end properties is a little different than the average run of the mill property. Usually people in very expensive homes have expectations. You can take classes on some of those if you feel like you'd ever really like to specialize in upper end homes. And but so I was just, do people still use portals? Do you use portals?
I actually have never used them. I
Really?
usually check them out for the clients,
Yeah.
and then I let them use my sample site.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, Modesto, Lydia, I think Chris. Yeah, they
Yeah.
all use it.
Okay. All right. Anything you would like to add today? By the way, they both did a beautiful job in their role play.
I'm sorry, I got the weirdest story that I'll share with you guys. Want to cut off the class now?
Yes,
or-
they're all gone anyway.
Okay.
Shall we just go?
I'm just gonna stop.
They're all gone. Good grief.
My insurance agent's from the Bay Area, and she was telling me about the story